Nelson. I have Senator Heller up next.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and thanks for your leadership on this issue. I'm disappointed that I didn't get a chance to see one of the cars earlier this morning. I would have really have enjoyed that. But the chairman, and by the way, thank you for being here and for your expertise in this particular area. The chairman asked the question that everybody was asking, that's when are these things going to, when will this be available? I guess the next question is it integrated into the current car that you own, or do you have to actually buy an autonomous vehicle in order to use one of these things?
So we believe very strongly that for some of the cybersecurity reasons that were cited, we need to design a vehicle with this in mind and look at its entire electrical and information system to make sure that we can get the highest level of protection into the vehicle. So we believe that going forward, you're going to buy vehicles that may look similar to vehicles on the road, but inside we'll have designed in the cyber protection and the redundancy that autonomous vehicles need to operate safely.
So it'd be a new car.
Yes, it would be a new car, and I think that's one of the great advantages in applying this ride-sharing model is that we can let members of the public experience the technology without having to go out and buy a new car. And some of the questions about adoption and how people will react to this technology, I think we can see with real human beings in real settings, again, without them having to spend money on buying a vehicle.
What would you anticipate the price range being?
I think like any technology, the autonomous technologies are going to be very expensive when you start because, as was referenced earlier, you need an array of different sensing technologies as well as some pretty sophisticated computing power on board to make it work. It's hard for me to predict what they're going to cost because, as with any new technology, much depends on how quickly we can build scale and deploy in volume. Again, as Mr. Opaku explained in his testimony, we think this ride-sharing model lets us move forward in volume even at a relatively high initial cost of the vehicles.
Do you anticipate it used just with electric engines or combustion engines?
So we think it's very interesting to use this with electric vehicles because of some of the environmental benefits. Obviously, in the ride-sharing model, we'd be operating in urban environments where I think everybody's interested in reducing pollution and the environmental impacts of the automobile.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Urmson, I think Nevada was the first to issue in the U.S. to issue a license for testing the vehicles for Google. In fact, I noticed it on the screen there that most of those shots were on the Las Vegas Strip or somewhere near to it.
The Delphi vehicle.
Yeah, very good. It's my understanding, Mr. Urmson, you were also very involved with the testing. Is this accurate for the working directly with the Department of Motor Vehicles in Nevada?
Yes, Senator, that's correct.
What was the extent of your exercise in testing?
So the state of Nevada wanted to be a leader in this space and passed legislation instructing their Department of Motor Vehicles to create language that would be a first-in-the-nation kind of rule set for self-driving vehicles.
How important was that?
I think it definitely placed a line in the sand, I guess, around how important this technology was and kind of brought it to national attention. At the same time, I think that it kicked off something that I think many of us are worried about with this potential patchwork of state-by-state regulations that would potentially lead to a challenge in delivering the technology broadly.
Mr. DeVos, also based on what Dr. Cummings said a little bit, you had a vehicle at CES, if I'm not mistaken. And I understand you had an unexpected obstruction there. Can you explain to us what that unexpected obstruction was?
Sure. One of the reasons we really enjoy testing in Las Vegas is because it does provide a lot of diversity of use cases in a really challenging environment, including some of the pedestrians that are there in that environment who may have either be intoxicated or maybe a little bit unpredictable in terms of where they're going on the roadways. And so as we were driving around downtown Vegas, on a fairly regular basis, we had pedestrians coming out into the path of the vehicle. And the vehicle, of course, seeing them accurately and taking the precautionary measures of slowing down. And, you know, it's a lot of pedestrian traffic in Vegas, so there were all different points of the vehicle. And it really highlighted to us the fact that the sensors look all the way around, 360 around that car at all times. And so the car sees much, much better than we as a human driver would actually see. And so it never failed to find the person and avoid them.
I understand one did step out in front of you, and it did avoid that individual.
It did, yeah.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.